श्री श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश कारितारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So, welcome to the morning Bhaktyaloka series. We have been discussing the six faults mentioned in the Updeshamrit text 2, and each of these are in the form of essays by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And today we will see the fourth one. We have up till now seen Atyahara, Prayasa. Yesterday we saw Prajalpa. Niyamagraha, the fourth one. Too much attachment to or too much neglect of rules and regulations. So this Niyamagraha has a twofold meaning. First, let us recite this verse. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashrati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in following six activities. Too entangled. What? Atyahar, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. So this is Atyahara. We saw the deeper meaning, not to give too much ahar to the senses. Then it becomes Atyahar. Prayas, over endeavoring from mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. So we saw what prayas is. There is bhog prayas, karm prayas, gyan prayas, ashtang yoga prayas, vairagya prayas. All these are detrimental to spiritual life. Then prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Oh, I think so. Yeah, we have finished prajalpa completely. So Prajalpa we saw as Jalpan is talking, and most of the time when we sit together, we talk about godless subjects. This is very detrimental, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur classifies them as eight different categories. And yesterday we saw these all eight different categories of Jalpan. Otherwise, Jalpan also has a positive connotation in the form of you know talking about uh, the scriptures. That kind of jalpan is Mahajans have engaged, and that we should follow. So that was in essence what Prajalpai spoke. Now, today the fourth one, Niyamagraha. Prabhupada in his translation itself gives the explanation of this twofold meaning. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Such a clear definition. That is following the letter of the law, not the spirit, or rejecting the rules and regulations scriptures and working independently or whimsically. You feel that the rules and regulations are too difficult for me, so you know, you don't follow them. So this has this twofold meaning. Jana Sangha will be associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And Lawley means being greedy for mundane achievements. You can be greedy for spiritual achievements. That is spiritual greed. Okay, now before we go into Bhaktivinoda Thakur's article, let's first try to understand some terminologies you know, with respect to Niyamagraha. What is the difference between a rule and principle? So rules are like roads and principle is like compass. So you hold a principle, compass, and the compass, you want to go north to the Himalayas. So you need to have the compass first, which will point in the northern direction. Now, although you have the compass and it is showing in the north, but to reach the Himalayas or to go in the north, there is a road. So you have to take that road to ultimately reach the north or the Himalayas. So this is like rules are like roads and principles is like compass. Generally, rules are the best way. Generally, rules are the best way to follow the principles. It should be to follow the principles. Okay. So I've given this example already. Compass shows northern direction. The road is in that direction. Is the best way to go in the northern direction. Although, you're standing maybe at Haridwar and you don't know which is north and you hold the compass and it shows that this is north and there is a road, but you can take a, hilly trekking path. Maybe that will also lead to you to the North Himalayas because you have the compass, but it is going to be difficult. But generally, the road is the best way to go in the northern direction. So, rules are the best way by which you can accomplish the principles. Now, principle is to remember Krishna. Rule is 16 rounds. So, Prabhupada said that one should chant 16 good rounds. 16 good rounds means 16 attentive rounds. So one, if he chants the 16 attentive rounds, then throughout the day he can remember Krishna. So the principle is to remember Krishna. The rule is to chant 16 rounds. Then temple. The principle is to glorify Vishnu. Temple is meant for glorifying Vishnu. So the rules, you follow the rules of Vastu and build the temple so that there is the energy flow is there in the temple and it helps us to glorify Vishnu. So like that, this is the difference between a principle and a rule. Now this is from the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Smartavya satatam Vishnur Vismartavyo na jatu chit Sarve vidhi nisedyasyur etayor eva kinkara. Smartavya satatam Vishnu. One should always remember Vishnu. Vismartavya na jatuchit. And never forget him. Vismartavya na jatuchit. All injunctions and prohibitions, survey vidhi nisheda, rules, do's and don'ts, are dependent on these two principles. Etayor eva kinkara. So here you can again come to know the distinction between principle and a rule. So, how do we accomplish Smartavya Satatam Vishnu in our practice of Krishna consciousness? Anyone? How do we accomplish Smartavya Satatam Vishnu? What is the, this is a principle, what is the rule we follow? Acha, first let me mute all, otherwise. Who will answer? How do we accomplish this principle of to always remember Krishna? What is the rule we follow? Anyone, please try. It's a very simple question I'm asking. Yes, Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, by remembering, by showing our gratitude in every thing which we are, I mean, for everything. And
No, this is the rule you
like,
follow for always remembering Krishna. This is the rule you always follow.
yes, Prabhuji, this is what actually we should feel gratitude for whatever we have. And
Okay.
I have heard few lectures, and from then onwards, like, I am trying to be grateful to him moment to moment, Prabhuji. And like all the things which we get, like water is from Krishna,
Yeah, yeah,
everything, food
yeah.
is from Krishna. So everything is he's providing us. So we should be grateful to him. That is
Yeah, see that gratitude of the heart is coming, that gratitude which is manifesting in the heart. Why is that gratitude coming? What is the reason? Okay, let's go a little, try to understand. Why is that gratitude? What is the reason of the heart transformation where we feel gratitude? Yes, Mataji, you can continue. Ribol? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Um, I don't know how to put it in words, Prabhuji. I'm so sorry.
Acha, why materialist people don't feel gratitude?
Because I mean, because they feel that they are the doer, they are the enjoyer.
No, basically, okay, let's go back. Okay, Nandini Mataji, yes. How do we accomplish Smartavya Satatam Vishnu? What
Krishna
is the rule?
Prabhuji. Yeah, by chanting every day, Prabhuji.
Yes, very simple answer by chanting. So when you chant attentively your rounds, then you're remembering Krishna. Then your remembrance of Krishna is there throughout the day. And we feel gratitude because there is a transformation of the heart. Chanting is the process for the transformation of the heart. That is the point. Now, Nandini Mataji, you tell us, Vismartavya na jatu chit. How do you follow this? How do you follow that? Prohibition. There is an injunction rule, do, and there is a don't, vidhi and nishedh. So how you can accomplish that you will not forget Krishna or Vishnu? Vismartavya. How is it? How do you accomplish this?
Same Prabhuji, by chanting only.
Hmm?
If we chant,
No,
We become.
no, 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 no. What are the four don'ts which we follow?
By regulatory four regulatory principles.
Yes, the four regulative principles. So do's are to chant 16 rounds. Don't are, don't follow these four regulative principles. No, no, no. Nishedh it is. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. Because if you do these activities, then you'll forget Vishnu. So this is how there is Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya Najatachit. Now, Acha, please try to carefully delve on this verse. Why this verse is saying Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya Najatachit? He could have just said Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Why this verse is saying also Vismartavya? Because if you do Smartavya Satanam Vishnu, then there is no question of, you know, Vismartavya. But it is saying both. Because there are Vidhi and Nished, the do's and don'ts. There is always this Vidhi and Nished, do's and don'ts. The do's help us to remember Krishna, the don't help us to not forget Krishna. You go to a patient goes to a doctor and he diagnoses the disease and he gives them this medication. You do this, follow this prescription. And then he will always have don'ts. Don't, eat curd or don't eat any fried items. By following both the do's and the don'ts, then he can become free from disease. So similarly, by following both the vidhi and the nisheth, then we can accomplish this principle. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya jatachit. Now, if you only do the vidhi, that is, you chant your rounds, but you don't follow the regulative principles, then although you are chanting, you're trying to remember Krishna, by breaking the rules, you will forget. Vismartavya jatuchit. Vismartavya will happen. You get the point? Yeah. So that's why both Vidhi and Nished are there. So this is the first thing in this. Now, I'm going a little deeper into this verse, which is not part of the discussion, but for us to understand. By following the Vidhi, we can go back to Godhead. That is, you chant, you can go back to Godhead. But just by following the Nished and not following the Vidhi, you cannot go back to Godhead. Just following the four regulative principles and not chanting Hare Krishna, you cannot go back to Godhead. You got the point? So this is another thing about Vidhi and Nished. So, in one sense, if one follows the Vidhi of always chanting, then definitely, he will not break the regular principles. So, in from a deeper understanding, just by following the Vidhi, the Nished can be accomplished. But just by following the Nisheda, that is, I don't, break the regulative principles. I just do the don'ts. It doesn't mean that, I'll go back to Godhead because I'm not able to continuously remember Krishna. Satatam, it is mentioned. I'm not able to do that. So just by following the Vidhi, Nished can be accomplished. And just by following the Nished, Vidhi cannot be accomplished. So this is another deeper aspect about Vidhi and Nished. Further, by following the Vidhi, it is Shuddha Bhakti. It is Shuddha Bhakti. Nishkama Bhakti it is. But by following the Nished, it is Sakama Bhakti. How is it? I'll try to explain. Please hear very attentively. How is it? Let us try to understand this. Now, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayashati. Now, I have love for Krishna in the heart, and I want to please Krishna by, especially Gaur Nitai, by offering shak. I want to make shak and lafra venjan and hot rice and ghee. So, because I have love for Krishna, I go and procure this, see whether it is a very good quality shak, organic, from the farm. And then with love and devotion, I do the cooking. And then naturally, with love and devotion, I offer it. So this is pure devotion. But when I have a desire to eat pasta or pizza, it is I who have a desire to eat pasta and pizza. So I go and buy the ingredients and then I cook. And then I don't forget to offer it. So that is karm arpanam. Yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juvoshi, yad dadasi tat kurusva madarpanam. So that is sakama bhakti because I have a desire to eat pasta. So all the actions are karma, and then that is offered to Krishna. You don't forget to offer it to Krishna. You know, that is karma arpanam. It is bhakti, but it is mixed bhakti or sakama bhakti. So that is the difference, deeper delving into this verse. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya na jatuchit, sarve vidhi nisedhyasyor etayora kinkara. But again, here let us focus on principle and rule. Principle is to always remember Krishna, never forget. How we accomplish the principle? By following the rule of chanting at least 16 good rounds, vidhi. And how we don't forget Krishna is following the four regulative principles. That are the Nisheda. So that is the difference between Vidhi and Nisheda. Okay. Now I'm going a little bit back into Updeshamrit, where we saw the translation of Prabhupada. Niyamagraha, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. And Niyamagraha, rejecting the rules uh, uh, and regulations of the scripture and working independently or whimsically. So now let us see based on this Niyam Agraha. So this Niyam and Agraha can be broken and it can have twofold meaning. Niyam Agraha, A is Dirgha here, or Niyam Agraha. Because both together when you join, it becomes Niyam Agraha only. You know, uh, Risva and Risva, short and short becomes Dirgha here. Here also Risva and Dirgha becomes Dirgha only. Risva and Risva becomes also Dirgha. So the when you join it becomes Niyamagraha, but when you break it up, it can have different meaning. Niyam Agraha, Niyam Agraha. So Niyam Agraha means insisting on rules without understanding the purpose or principle. And Niyam Agraha means neglecting the rules and regulations Shastra which are meant for spiritual development. So let's try to understand both this. Insisting on rules without understanding the purpose or principle and neglecting the rules and regulations of Shastra which are meant for spiritual development. We insist on rules without understanding the purpose or principle. Example. Example 1. Bhishma's well-paying guest on deathbed. Now the rule is that according to Manu Samhita and the Vedic codes of conduct, the rule is when a guest uh, comes to your home, you have to welcome him. You have to welcome him by offering a seat, offering water, and sweet words. Right? So this is the rule. Now Bhishma was on his deathbed, and neither he could welcome him. The all great rishis, personality, Krishna himself with the Pandavas had come there on his deathbed. So Bhishma did not have the opportunity to welcome his guest by offering water or offering a seat or sweet words because he was in a difficult condition. And Bhishma, just by his glance, just by his movement of his eyes, he was welcoming the guest. So you cannot say, oh, Bhishma is not following the rule without understanding, you know, he's without understanding the purpose of the principle. You might say, oh, he's violating the principle. No, This is, how an advanced devotee follows the principle. Uh, that is to be really seen. And that's what Prabhupada mentions in the purport. Now, we also know the case of another history which is there in the Bhagavatam. Anyone knows what I'm hinting at? Here we know how Bhishma welcomed his guest on the deathbed just by his movement of his glance. Anyone knows another example in the Bhagavatam which, insisted on the rule without understanding the purpose or the principle behind it? Anyone? What I'm hinting at? Anyone knows? I'm hinting at Parikshit Maharaj, who entered the ashram of Shamik Rishi. So, Parikshit is a king, and it is the Rishi's duty to welcome the king, you know, and, you know, he should offer a seat. And he was actually thirsty. He had entered the stage, hermitage, to actually, ask for water. So, what to speak of offering water? The sage, gave a very cold reception. That's what Prabhupada says. So, Parikshit was, by Lord's arrangement, because not following the rule, he was very upset. And actually, we should garland, especially a king who has come. So, because of this cold reception, Parikshit, he saw a dead snake and he picked it up with his arrow and garlanded the sage and left the place. So, he could not understand the deeper purpose, that why did the sage not welcome? Because the sage was deep absorbed in meditation. He had lost external control with the contact with the material world. He was not aware that the king had come. So this is what happens. We insist on the rules without understanding the purpose or principle. Now, sometimes devotees can be very, very fanatic about insisting on the rule without understanding the principle. So once in our temple, uh, there was a shoe stand which was there, and generally, devotees, guests who come, they used to leave their slippers right in front of the temple and not in the shoe stand. So, you know, the temple authorities had given the temple commander the service that you make sure that no one keeps their slippers in the shoe stand, sorry, in front of the temple, but they keep it in the shoe stand. So that was the rule he had told him to, make sure that all the guests will follow this. So he was standing right in the front of the temple entrance and he was directing all the guests, not to keep their slippers here, but in the shoe stand. And then he saw that some guest had already come barefoot. And then he asked, "Where are your slippers?" He said, "We have kept in our car." "No, that's not allowed. Get your slippers from the car and keep it in the shoe stand." He was very heavy and adamant, and they could not understand why is he saying that. No, 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 you're not allowed. You have to keep your slippers in the shoe stand. The main principle is that the shoes should not be, or the slippers should not be in front of the temple entrance, but in the shoe stand, or they can keep it somewhere else also. They had kept it in their car, but he was insisting on the rule without understanding the purpose. I hope you are getting this point. Insisting on the letter of the rule without understanding the principle can be detrimental. So they were quite upset, these guests. Now, why respect to Brahmanas? So we respect the Brahmanas because Brahmanas are Bhudevas. They are representatives of the Lord. They're actually like gods walking on earth. Why? Because they represent the Lord, they represent the Vedic teachings, because they teach the Vedas and they guide the society towards spiritual evolution. So, this is the reason we should respect Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas, as Kali Yuga degraded, they were demanding respect based on birthright and not having the qualification of a Brahmagya, one who's learned in the Vedas. So the Brahmanas have to be respected because they have knowledge of the Vedas, they teach this knowledge, and they are representatives of the Lord. They are Bhudevas. But when the Brahmanas insist on the rule, no, I'm a Brahmana because I'm born as a Brahmana, you have to respect me, then that is detrimental. And that's why we see how Kali Yuga degraded and how the Brahmanas, through Shringi Rishi, first this degradation happened. Okay. Agraha means failure to accept. Difficult to follow, so it is not important. You know, I feel that principle is difficult to follow, so I don't follow that. I neglect it. So that is agraha. Rules are important to follow the principle. Example, road to reach the destination and cross country. So if you try to do cross country, then you can land in difficulty. But if you follow the road, then you'll reach. So that's why principles are important. Sorry, rules are important so that ultimately you can achieve, the goal. That is like the principle. Rules are the best way to follow the principle. Example, devotee dress. So the rule is, one should dress himself properly. And both for Prabhujis and Matajis. We might uh, know our basic philosophy. We are not the body, we are spirit, soul. But if, the body is exposed, then it will affect our psychology, it will affect our consciousness. So the culture is also very important. And the culture helps us to follow the philosophy. But if the culture is not there, then although we have the philosophy, we are not the body, we are spiritual. To realize that will become difficult because there is lack of culture. So if we follow the rules, then we can, follow the principles. So that's the example. So that is a little bit background about Niyamagraha. I had to understand, I had to explain this concept of the term Niyamagraha, and that's why I discussed this from the Updeshamrit and the understand the terms, what is principle and rule. Now, regarding this, before we go to the Bhaktyaloka article, any questions you have, you can raise your hands. Any questions, any clarifications? Everyone was able to follow and understand this. Okay, then we will now go to the article Bhaktyaloka. Niyamas or rules are of two kinds, Vidhi, prescriptions, and Nishedh, prohibitions. So now you're very clear, principle and rules. Rules will be having Vidhi and Nishedh always. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins his article. There is prescription and proscriptions. Prohibitions or proscriptions. Whatever is enjoyed as one's duty is a prescribed rule. Whatever is enjoyed as restricted is a prohibited rule. Both kinds of rules are auspicious for the living entities. Conditioned souls are eligible to attain a very exalted position from a very low position. So both these are auspicious. Please remember the Vidhi and Nishedh. I've already made that point clear. And the conditioned souls can attain a very exalted position from a very low position by following the Vidhi and Nishedh. Between these two positions, there are many other positions. Each position is a gradual step. Now, I'll make it more clear. Each gradual step is a distinct level of advancement. Each and every gradual step has different prescriptions and prohibitions. Please try to understand this now. Now, Lowest position, Vidhi and Nisheth. These are the conditioned souls. And in the liberated souls, there is an exalted position we can attain. Again, there is also Vidhi and Nisheth. So, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to say, that at this level, there is Vidhi and Nisheth. At this level, there is Vidhi and Nisheth. At this level, there is Vidhi and Nisheth. So at every level, there are different Vidhis and Nisheth. I'll give an example. At the stage of Nishtha, there is a different Vidhi you have to follow and different Nisheth. You can still not hold to Anarthas there. If you hold to Anarthas, then you go to the next level. You are at the level of Anartha battling with the Anarthas. So while you're battling with the Anarthas, you will have to follow different Vidhi and different Nisheth. By following the Vidhi and Nisheth, you will come to the next step, Nishtha. And when you're at Nishtha, you will have to follow different Vidhi and different Nisheth. If you still hold on to Anartha, then you are not qualified to stay at the stage of Nishtha. You have to come down, follow this completely perfectly Vidhi Nisheth at this level, and then rise up. I hope this point is clear. If you have any questions, you are free to ask. Whenever living entity steps to one level and stays there, he is obliged to follow the prescription and prohibitions of that step. I already explained this. By following those enjoyed prescription and prohibitions, one becomes eligible for the next step. I explained this also. If one is unable to attain the next step, he falls down to a low step. This is called degradation. Attaining the higher step is called advancement. To properly follow the precepts of one's own level is called one's prescribed duty or steadiness in one's own position. So please understand this statement. To properly follow the precepts of one's own level is called one's prescribed duty or steadiness in one's own position. Now, we all know Arjuna is a Kshatriya. That's the role he is playing in this Leela. And Arjuna wants to leave the battlefield and go and take sannyas because he finds this duty very difficult to kill his own relatives. But what is Krishna advising Arjuna? Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You have the adhikar to do your Kshatriya dharma because you are a Kshatriya. So you follow your prescribed duties according to your varnashram. But Arjuna wants to give up his Kshatriya duty and follow somebody else's duty of a Vairagi. That is not allowed. So by following one's own level, one's prescribed duty, there is steadiness in one's position. So that's the point being explained. Okay, again I've made it clear. Each level there are do's and don'ts. One follows, does not follow. If he follows, there is advancement. If he does not follow at that level, there is degradation. So for Arjuna, he has to follow his Kshatriya dharma. And then by following that Nishkama Karma Yoga, because Mahaphaleshu Kadachana, he will become a Jnana Nishta. He will become Sthita Pragya. And then his heart is purified and he is Sthita Pragya. Then he can take up to Jnana Ashtanga and then further Bhakti Yoga. So like that, that gradual ladder is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Now Arjuna does not follow Kshatriya Dharma and he takes to the renounced order, Vairagi. He does not follow. Actually, by thinking that he is situated in Jnana, he degrades. He falls down, in fact. So that's what, is being explained in this statement. Again, if you have any questions, you're free to ask. Please try to understand this very carefully. It's very important. Along the path of self-realization, the devotee will enter into rules regulating each stage. And as he enters into a new stage, he leaves behind the rules of the previous one. An idea of this is follows. Okay. Now I am explaining this concept which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking here from the Harinam Chintamani. Along the path of self-realization, devotee will enter into the rules regulating each stage, and as he enters into a new stage, he leaves behind the rules of the previous one. An idea of this is follows. With the increase in faith, the sadhaka performing sadhana bhakti reduces offenses and attains steadiness nishta. This replaces his unsteady nature, anishtata bhajan kriya, unsteady devotional practice, and he has now come to steady devotional practice. In this way, the sadhaka's mind becomes more peaceful and he can focus on his japa meditations better. At this stage, he must give up his unsteady nature. Hearing the nectarian pastimes of the Lord from the mouth of the pure devotees. Pure devotees, it should be here. Increases the devotee's purity. He next enters the stage of attaining a taste for chanting ruchi. So, at the stage of nishtha, he has to give up his unsteady nature. If he still clinges onto it, then he is not qualified to stay in that stage. He has to come down, he has to purify himself completely, and then when he's steady, then he goes to the next step. So at the stage of Nishtha, then as he hears the pastimes of the Lord, his heart gets more purified, he gets ruchi. This replaces a taste for Maya or Asatrishna, things that are not connected to the Lord. In this way, the sadhaka gives up the habit of speculation and puts full faith in the parampara, system of attaining knowledge. Hearing the nectarian pastimes of the Lord increases the devotee with purified taste further. So that's how it means. When he goes to Nishtha, then he has to give up his taste for ruchi for material things and he has to develop more ruchi for spiritual things. So that's out. I hope you're able to grasp this. With the further deepening of faith, the sadhaka must leave his attraction for the items of the material world and the thought of being the enjoyer of such things. In this way, the sadhaka enters the stage of attaining attraction for the Lord, asakti. From this attraction for Sri Krishna, the devotee is by now very pure hearted, yearns for connection with the Lord. Asakti means attachment. The mind is attached to in yoga with Krishna. And from this attraction, loving devotional service bhava will arise. At this stage, a devotee shuns completely material enjoyment. So at the stage of Nishtha, Bhanu Swami Maharaj says one is 50% attracted to Maya, 50% attracted to Krishna. At the stage of Ruchi, this goes more towards Krishna. One has maybe 70% or 75% attracted to Krishna. So he has to give up now Maya gradually. If he's more and more attracted to Maya, then he's not qualified to stay at this stage. He has more ruchi for material enjoyment. At the stage of asakti, his attraction to uh, Krishna is maybe 90% and very little attraction to Maya. At the stage of Baba, it is 99%. So that he has to completely give up material enjoyment. So that's how the progression is. With the increasing love for the Lord, bhava, spontaneous loving attraction, becomes a natural occurrence and the devotee cannot live without the Lord. In this way, he tastes Krishna Prema and this taste becomes his prayojan, his indispensable need. Tasting this, he leaves behind the material world and can never sin again. Please mark this. That means even at the stage of anarth nivritti, the tendency to sin is there, although we don't have desire, but because of the vasanas. But as he attains asaktina, the papa gandha completely leaves his heart. The holy name will prevent this ever happening. The material world has no long further pulling power to attract him. So that's the stage of bhava and prema. Note, if one does not give up the lower stages, when one enters the higher stages, Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructs that one will not progress. So the same point is there in Harinam Chintamani, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making here. Okay, coming now back to the discussion. I hope you are able to understand this. Any questions you have? All are very silent, maybe in deep meditation. How many of you could not understand this discussion? Please sincerely raise your hand. How many of you are able to understand this discussion which we had? One, two. Only two hands have been raised. What about others? Are you all there, Sunita Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'm there, but it's too heavy for me to. So I have understood part of it. Means some I couldn't understand it clearly. As
So we would like to know what you did not understand, because this is very important for us to understand.
yes,
It
for
is
example,
actually very, very simple, very, very simple. But I know first time when we encounter it becomes a little difficult because we have not heard this before. Yeah, tell us what you did not understand.
the stages at which we give up, and for example, Niyamagraha. Just now, whatever we discussed,
Mhm.
that was not clear.
Okay, I'll give you a very simple example so that we can uh, have a still clearer understanding. Now, okay, let me think about it. Something which is really, really a simple example for us to understand. Okay, I'm giving a very simple example. Suppose you're in a job and this job has a salary, say, quite minimal salary, which where you can afford for only a two-wheeler because you're having that salary. Now, after working in that job for some time, you're given a very high promotion. Now you're a manager and you have a salary of, say, a very high salary of, say, 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs. Now, based on your position, there are others who are also there in your team who are having a very low salary. They can afford for only a two-wheeler. Now, you many years back had the two-wheeler also. Of course, it is a question of, I'm just giving an example just to make the point clear. Out of simplicity, you might still stick on to the two-wheeler. But your position now as a manager and your salary uh, affords you to have a car. You know, you cannot still stick on to the two-wheeler now. You know. Similarly, when you're at the stage of Nishta, you'll have to follow the rules and regulations of Nishta. That means you have to be very steady in your practices. And if you have to maintain that stage, that means you have to show steadiness in your practice, steadiness in all your activities. Then if you still linger on to your previous habit of unsteadiness, then you're not qualified to stay at that stage. You'll have to go down, remove the unsteadiness, become thorough in that practice and attain steadiness and then go there on top of Nishta. Now, once you're on Nishta, then by following the rules, you'll advance. And if you don't follow the rules of Nishta, you will not advance. You'll come down. You'll come down. Then at stage of Ruchi, by following the stages of Nishta, you will attain Ruchi. Now, once you're on Ruchi, you get more taste for Krishna conscious activities. And that means attraction for Krishna. But in that stage, you still maintain that lingering for material taste, and you start, taking pleasure even in material taste, then you're not qualified to stay at Ruchi because still the mundane. So you'll have to give that up and develop more and more taste towards the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes. That will help you to advance to asakti. So one has to stay in that stage and follow the rules and regulations of that stage by to make further advancement. If he doesn't follow that level, his do's and don'ts, then he's not qualified for that level. He has to come down and follow his level of do's and don'ts to make gradual progression. So that is the point which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. But one question I have, Prabhuji, that
Yes.
we follow rules and regulations to
Can
achieve a
you
certain
speak
position.
little loudly, please?
We follow rules and regulations to achieve a certain position. For example, as you said now, we have to follow certain niyams or rules to achieve the position of ruchi, asakti, and bhava, and further. So my question was that don't these positions aren't these positions achieved by practice?
No, I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Hare Krishna. Am I
Yes,
audible?
now it's
Huh.
better. Yeah, you can
Yes.
be close to the mic.
Yes. My question was that to attain a certain position,
Mhm.
ruchi, asakti, these positions, aren't they achieved automatically?
No, they are not achieved automatically. You have to endeavor for each level. Whether the post of a manager, senior manager, just you stay in that stage and you just do, you'll not attain. You'll have to perform. And based on your performance, then they will elevate you, right? So that's why many, don't, if you're not really striving and endeavoring, then you don't get that promotion. They will see how you're performing and then they will promote you, right? Yes or no?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
So when you come to a higher stage, then you should develop more taste for chanting. You should spend more time in chanting. That shows that you have ruchi. If you're not, 10, 15 years, 20 years have passed, you're still on the 16 rounds. That means you have not developed ruchi. You're sticking on there. Prabhupada says chanting 16 rounds is for neophytes. So you'll remain a neophyte. That's the point. Okay, any other questions you have? Any other questions? Okay, there's one question. Nandini Mataji, yes.
Prabhuji, Dhanuvat Pranam. Prabhuji, many a times, like we often get confused between the rules and regulation mentioned in the Dharma Shastras and some rules or conditions in Bhakti Shastras, Prabhuji.
Can you tell
Like
us some
what,
example?
huh?
Can you give us some example of what rules you get confused between the Dharma Shastras and the Bhakti Shastras?
So, for example, Prabhuji, mm, for like see in Dharma Shastra it is written ki a girl should be married and then she should have family and like that, like no she should be always under the protection of father and then husband and son. So so this is like I feel I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. I thought like this is from Dharma Shastras, and then or maybe like psychophysical nature of a condition. So if that is like if somebody doesn't have a choice, he if doesn't want because it doesn't fit in her psychophysical nature or something like that, so she can like no be like not need not follow this and follow like means this is not the criteria for bhakti.
Yeah, basically, if you see Prabhupada purports, if you read Prabhupada purports, many times Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam also quotes Manu Samhita. Now, Manu Samhita is part of the Dharma Shastras. Now, whether we are, at the platform of a liberated platform, whether we can just follow, we have that kind of Shraddha, have that kind of faith where we have transcended the modes and we are transcendental and we are practicing that kind of Ananya Bhakti, we have to see that. So that is why Prabhupada incorporates in his purports, you know, although he is giving commentaries on Bhakti Shastras, Bhakti literatures, no other Acharya has done this. If you see the previous Acharya's commentaries, whether it is Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami, Vishnu Chandra Thakur, they just comment on the verse. They don't quote any of the Dharma Shastra like the Manu Samhita in their commentary at all. But Prabhupada is quoting. Now, does it mean that Prabhupada is doing what the previous acharyas have not done something? No. Because the previous acharyas knew that those who were studying their literatures, the Bhakti Shastras, they were meticulously following the Dharma Shastras, which are conducive for Bhakti. Because that was a culture during that time. But now Prabhupada knows the situation is different. So that's why Prabhupada incorporates both these things, both these aspects. So it is only very rare that somebody who is transcended the modes, who is, uh, who is not influenced, who has that deep faith, and he is able to, he's having bhakti adhikar. Of course, I mean bhakti adhikar means adhikar for practicing Shuddha Bhakti, and the modes don't affect him. For him also, Prabhupada is giving in his purports what exactly he has to do. So that's why a balance is required. As long as one is in the conditioned state, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that the Varnashram rules, apply to him, apply to him. So whatever is required for so there are these constitutional duties, there are the conditional duties. Now we'll have to see if we are, only doing the constitutional duties, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, then we are free from the conditionings. But no, we are still doing our conditional duties. That means there has to be a balance so that we can make proper progress. So that is required. And that a spiritual master has to, or a Shiksha Guru has to study in each case and recommend. But there are general principles which we need to follow. Is it okay, Mataji?
But like how do we as a practitioner, like how do we like analyze and understand what is fit for us?
That for us, it is difficult to analyze. Somebody who is very advanced, who knows the Shastra, who knows the application of the Shastra. Uh, that's why I mentioned under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master or a very elevated Shiksha Guru, one has to carefully observe him. In the previous times, the children used to be in the Gurukul, and the spiritual master is carefully understand the psychology of the student because he's many years spending. So by carefully studying the psychology and understanding, then the spiritual master is to recommend, oh, you're qualified now to enter the ashram, or you're qualified to do this kind of activity. That's how they used to gradually get elevated. So that requires very good expertise on the behalf of the teacher to understand and then recommend. Okay.
Many times this also comes in mind ki like for example recently there was some death, and then as per the rules women are not allowed to enter the crematorium, So what? But then, like I wanted to do kirtan there, so I went, and then later it was like pointed out, ki, okay, why? How could you go there? Women are not allowed. You shouldn't be going there. So like then I become confused because my intention was like to go and chant, but then the rules came ki women should not enter the crematorium. So that time I like again become confused ki, Arey, what should I follow? This or that.
Yeah, that is why I mentioned, there is a balance which we need to know, that that balance is a thin line, and you know what exactly is to be done. That's why it requires very fine discrimination, that both are in harmony. you know the consciousness that we want to do kirtan for them, and also the consciousness that we follow the rule. So this is a very, very fine line of discrimination, and that's why it requires very good expertise in understanding this shastra. Just imagine this dharma sankat of Arjuna. You know, Draupadi told him that he's a Brahmana, he should be forgiven. And Bhima said he's a killer, Atitaina, he should be killed. And Krishna also argued for that. And then Krishna said, you execute both the orders. And how, that Vivek Buddhi, the Lord inspired in the heart, and then he could execute and satisfy both of them. So how to, uh, make both these conditions in harmony, because either one, if you don't do it, it'll affect you. So that requires expertise. It requires expertise. It's not so easy. That's the point. Okay.
Thank
We
you,
have
Roshni.
one more question. Somebody had raised a hand. I'll take up this last question. Yes, Mataji. Radha Mataji, you had a question.
No, Prabhuji. I'll ask you on WhatsApp then.
Okay, fine, fine. So thank you very, very much. We have just
Thank you,
begun.
Prabhuji, for a wonderful class, wonderful explanation. I mean, a lot of clarity you have given in lot many things.
So we have just begun the discussion on Niyamagraha. Tomorrow we'll continue this discussion and end this article also. Thank you very much. Srila
Thank you
Prabhupada
so
ki
much,
jai.
Prabhuji.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Shri Bhaktyaloka ki jai. Hare Krishna.